Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. The remnants of Earth's once great civilization drifted through the cold, endless expanse of space, their hope dwindling with each passing day. Earth was gone, obliterated in a fiery cataclysm that had left no time for goodbyes. Only the lucky few who had been aboard humanity's last fleet had survived. Aboard these ships were the last remnants of a species that had thrived for millennia, now reduced to wanderers seeking a home they might never find. Jason Hunt stood at the observation deck of the Exodus, the flagship of this dwindling fleet. He was a man who had seen the best and worst of humanity, a leader burdened by the weight of survival. The stars stretched before him, infinite and cold. He had led his people for years now, through hunger, loss, and the slow decay of hope. They'd searched a dozen planets, all inhospitable, each one draining their dwindling resources further. How much longer could they go on? "Commander," a voice broke the silence behind him. It was Maria Ellis, the fleet's chief scientist. Her eyes carried the same weight as Jason's, a shared burden, a shared fear. "What is it, Maria?" Jason asked, his voice low and hoarse from too many sleepless nights. "We've picked up a signal. A faint one. But it's there." She stepped closer, her face lit with a glimmer of something Jason hadn't seen in a long time, hope. Jason turned to face her fully, his heart pounding in his chest. "Where is it coming from?" "A system on the edge of the sector," she said, pulling up a holographic map. A distant star flickered on the edge of their navigational charts. "It's uncharted, but there's a chance there's a habitable planet. It's risky, but it could be our last hope." Jason stared at the map, his mind racing. Every decision he made now carried the weight of humanity's survival. If they went to this system and found nothing, it could mean the end. Supplies were dangerously low, and the fleet's morale was at its breaking point. But if they didn't go, they might never find another chance. "Set a course," Jason said, the weight of the decision settling on him like a leaden cloak. "We don't have a choice." The fleet shifted course, the hum of engines vibrating through the ship as they moved toward the distant star. Jason remained at the observation deck, watching as the stars stretched into streaks of light. This was the life they knew now, endless travel, endless uncertainty. Days passed in a blur of routine maintenance, rationing discussions, and the ever-present fear that the fleet's systems might fail before they reached their destination. Jason barely slept, his mind running through endless contingencies, always preparing for the worst. The Ralith, a powerful alien race they had narrowly escaped before, could still be out there. The memory of that encounter haunted Jason. Humans, fragile and small, had barely survived the Ralith's superior technology. If they were found again, there would be no second chance. Maria joined him on the bridge one morning, her face pale but determined. "We're getting closer. We'll be within range in a few hours." Jason nodded, feeling the tension coil tighter in his chest. "Have the scout team ready. I want them prepped to land as soon as we get there." When they finally dropped out of faster-than-light travel, the view before them was breathtaking. A bright, golden star hung in the center of the system, illuminating a series of planets in its orbit. But it was the third planet that caught their attention, blue and green, with clouds swirling in a thick atmosphere. It looked like Earth. It looked like salvation. The bridge crew erupted into murmurs of awe and disbelief, but Jason remained silent. It was too perfect. Too convenient. He couldn't let himself believe it until they were on the ground. "Send the scouts," he ordered. The scout ship descended through the atmosphere, its hull shimmering in the heat of re-entry. Jason watched from the command center, every second feeling like an eternity. He could hear the voices of the crew as they reported back. The air was breathable, the temperature stable. It seemed perfect, but Jason couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was wrong. Hours passed before the scout team returned. Jason met them in the hangar, his heart in his throat. Captain Lila Carter stepped down from the shuttle, her face grim. She had the look of someone who had seen something terrible. "It's not what it seems," Lila said, her voice low. "The planet's surface is habitable, yes, but there are signs of life. And not the friendly kind." Jason's stomach dropped. "What kind of life?" "We didn't get a good look," Lila admitted. "But we found ruins. Ancient, massive structures, technology far beyond anything we've seen. And something else, it's watching us." Jason's mind raced. "We need to know more. This could still be our best shot." "I agree," Lila said. "But we need to be prepared. Whatever's down there isn't human." The decision weighed heavily on Jason. The planet was their only real option, but landing would put them at risk. He called a meeting with the fleet's council, where the debate raged for hours. Some argued they should keep searching, others believed they should land and take their chances. In the end, Jason made the call. They would land. They had no choice. The fleet descended slowly, cautiously, onto the planet's surface. The landing sites were chosen carefully, with defensive positions established immediately. Tensions were high as the survivors stepped onto the alien soil, some weeping at the sight of blue skies and green fields, reminders of the world they had lost. But the sense of peace was short-lived. It started with small things, equipment malfunctioning, strange noises in the night. Then, one of the patrols went missing. Jason ordered a search, but the patrol was never found. What they did find was disturbing, a trail of blood leading into the dense forests that bordered the landing site. Something was hunting them, the Ralith. They had found the humans again, and this time, they weren't going to let them escape. The first attack came at night, ships appearing out of nowhere, raining fire down on the camp. Jason rallied his people, leading them into a desperate defense. The Ralith were stronger, more advanced, but humanity had something they didn't: determination. Using the alien technology they had scavenged from the earlier encounter, Jason and his engineers devised a way to turn the tide. They managed to jam the Ralith's communications, cutting off their coordination and giving the humans a chance to strike back. The battle was fierce, brutal. Jason fought on the front lines, rallying his people even as the situation grew more dire. He watched as friends, comrades, and innocents fell under the relentless assault. But still, they fought. Still, they held on, and then, just as it seemed all was lost, something stirred deep within the planet. The ancient technology that had lain dormant for eons suddenly activated. The ground shook, and the sky lit up with strange energy. The Ralith ships began to malfunction, their systems short-circuiting as the planet's defenses awoke. Jason didn't know what had caused it, but he wasn't about to waste the opportunity. He ordered a full-scale counterattack, using every resource they had left. The humans pushed the Ralith back, reclaiming the skies and the land. As the last Ralith ship was destroyed, Jason stood on the battlefield, surrounded by the devastation. The cost had been high, too high. But they had survived. Against all odds, they had survived. In the aftermath, Maria came to him, her face filled with awe. "It wasn't us, Jason. It was the planet. There's something here, something old. Something powerful." Jason nodded, staring out at the horizon where the alien ruins stood. "Whatever it is, we need to understand it. If we're going to survive here, we need to learn from this place. The weeks that followed were filled with hard work and harder decisions. The survivors began to rebuild, constructing shelters, planting crops, and creating a new society from the ashes of the old. But the mystery of the planet remained. Jason often found himself standing at the edge of the alien ruins, wondering what kind of civilization had built them. Wondering if they would ever find answers. One night, as he stood beneath the stars, Maria joined him. "Do you think we'll make it, Jason? Do you think we can rebuild?" Jason looked up at the night sky, the stars twinkling above them like beacons of hope. "We've survived this long, Maria. We'll make it. We have to." And so, humanity's second chance began, not on Earth, but on a new world, filled with unknown dangers and ancient mysteries. They would face new challenges, new enemies, but they would do it together. Because that was the essence of humanity, their will to survive, their ability to adapt, and their unshakable hope that no matter how dark the night, the dawn would always come. As the first city rose from the ground, and the survivors looked toward the future, they knew that Earth's legacy would live on. Not in the soil beneath their feet, but in the hearts of those who had fought, bled, and survived. This was their new beginning. This was humanity's rebirth. Jason Hunt stood on the edge of the newly built settlement, staring out at the horizon. The city was still modest, rows of shelters, makeshift farms, and a rudimentary infrastructure. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. The people worked tirelessly, their hands shaping the future out of the raw material of survival. The days of drifting in space, of wondering if there would ever be solid ground beneath their feet again, were behind them. But Jason knew that the challenges were far from over. The planet had revealed just enough of itself to be both tantalizing and terrifying. The ancient alien technology, whatever had awakened during the battle with the Ralith, remained largely dormant now. And while the Ralith had been driven off, there was no telling if they would return. Humanity's future here was precarious, and Jason felt the weight of it pressing down on him. Maria walked up beside him, her steps quiet, but Jason had come to recognize the soft scuff of her boots on the packed earth. "You're thinking about the ruins again, aren't you?" she asked, crossing her arms as she gazed in the same direction. Jason didn't answer at first. The ruins loomed on the outskirts of their settlement, a silent reminder that this planet had a history far older and more dangerous than anything they had known on Earth. Whatever power had saved them once might not be so benevolent if disturbed again. "We need to know more," he said finally. "We can't just settle here and pretend those ruins aren't there. There's something about this planet, something we don't understand yet." Maria nodded. "We've been running scans and taking samples, but we're only scratching the surface. I've sent a team to explore deeper into the ruins tomorrow. I'll be going with them." Jason turned to her, his brow furrowed. "You're the fleet's chief scientist. It's risky. We don't know what's down there." "That's exactly why I have to go," Maria replied. "We need to understand what we're dealing with. If we don't, we're blind. This technology, this planet, it could be the key to everything. Or it could be a ticking time bomb." Jason didn't like it, but he knew she was right. "Be careful," he said, his voice softening. "We can't afford to lose you." "I'll take the best team we have," Maria said with a small smile, trying to lighten the tension. "Besides, you'll need someone to tell you what all those glowing alien symbols mean." Jason allowed a faint smile to break through the grimness of his expression. "I'll be waiting for your report." As Maria walked away, Jason turned his attention back to the settlement. People bustled about, carrying supplies, repairing equipment, and tending to the crops that would eventually feed them. This was what he had fought for, the survival of his people. But there was still so much that was uncertain. The next day, Jason watched as Maria and her team set out toward the ruins. Their equipment glinted in the sunlight as they moved cautiously toward the ancient structures, their figures shrinking in the distance until they disappeared into the darkness of the alien architecture. The hours dragged on, and Jason busied himself with the daily needs of the settlement, but his mind was never far from the team. It was late afternoon when the first distress call came through. "We've found something," Maria's voice crackled over the comm, strained and tense. "It's alive." Jason's stomach dropped. "Alive? What do you mean?" "We were exploring one of the lower chambers when we triggered something. There's a being. It's in stasis, but the systems around it are starting to react to our presence. I don't think it's friendly, Jason. We need to extract immediately." Jason was already on his feet, barking orders. "Get out of there, now. I'm sending a retrieval team." But before the retrieval team could be fully mobilized, Maria's voice came through again, this time more urgent. "It's waking up." Jason's heart pounded as he listened to the sounds of scrambling footsteps and the static-filled reports of the team trying to make their way out. He could hear the strain in Maria's voice as she tried to guide her team, but then a loud, guttural noise filled the comm channel, a sound unlike anything human. Jason's blood ran cold. "Maria, report," he shouted. There was no answer for a long, agonizing moment. Then her voice came through, breathless. "We're coming back, but it's following us." Jason wasted no time. He gathered a security detail and raced toward the outskirts of the settlement, his mind racing with what they could be up against. By the time they reached the ruins, the first of Maria's team had emerged, their faces pale and eyes wide with fear. Maria was among them, her breathing ragged as she staggered out of the ruins, but one look at her face told Jason all he needed to know. Whatever they had awoken, it was coming. "We need to evacuate this area," Maria gasped, clutching her side where a cut bled through her uniform. "It's not like anything we've seen before. It's intelligent, Jason. And it's angry." Jason didn't hesitate. He ordered the security team to set up a perimeter, while the rest of the settlers were moved to a safer location. But even as he barked orders, he could feel the ground tremble beneath his feet. Then it emerged. From the ruins came a massive, shadowy figure, its form shifting and crackling with energy. It was vaguely humanoid, but its limbs elongated and rippled with strange, fluid motion. Its eyes glowed with a cold, alien intelligence, and it let out a low, guttural growl that sent shivers down Jason's spine. The security team opened fire, but the creature absorbed the blasts, its form shimmering as if made of pure energy. It moved with terrifying speed, closing the distance between them in seconds, and with a swipe of its arm, it sent several men flying. Jason's mind raced. Conventional weapons weren't going to stop this thing. They needed a new strategy. "Fall back," he shouted, pulling Maria behind cover as the creature advanced. Maria, still clutching her injured side, looked at him with wide eyes. "We need to get back to the command center. The ancient technology, we might be able to use it against this thing." Jason nodded, and they retreated, the creature following them at a distance, its movements slow but deliberate. Whatever it was, it seemed to be testing them, learning from their actions. When they reached the command center, Jason ordered the engineers to begin powering up the alien systems they had found during the initial landing. The technology was still largely a mystery, but it was their only hope. As the power surged through the ancient machinery, the creature paused, as if sensing the change in the air. "It's reacting," Maria said, her voice filled with awe and fear. "It knows what we're doing." Jason gritted his teeth. "Then we need to move fast." The engineers worked frantically, following Maria's instructions as they interfaced with the alien consoles. The creature was drawing closer, its form shifting with every step, its glowing eyes fixed on the command center. "Now!" Maria shouted as the final connection was made. A pulse of energy shot out from the alien machinery, enveloping the creature in a shimmering field. It let out a furious roar, thrashing against the energy field as its form began to destabilize. Jason watched, holding his breath, as the creature flickered, its body growing more and more erratic until, with a final, ear-splitting scream, it dissipated into nothingness. The silence that followed was deafening. Jason let out a long breath, his shoulders sagging with relief. "Is it gone?" Maria nodded, but her expression was grim. "For now. But this planet, there's more to it than we realized. This wasn't just some alien creature. It's part of something bigger. And I don't think it's the last we'll see of it." Jason knew she was right. The battle had been won, but the war for survival on this planet was far from over. There were forces at play here that they barely understood, forces that had the power to reshape their future, for better or for worse. As he looked out over the settlement, now lit by the setting sun, Jason felt a strange sense of calm. They had faced the unknown and survived. They had built something here, something worth fighting for. But the road ahead would be long and filled with dangers they couldn't yet imagine. Still, he knew one thing for certain: humanity would endure. They had survived the destruction of Earth, they had survived the Ralith, and they had survived the unknown dangers of this new world. Whatever came next, they would face it together and they would survive.